Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
Having an intention around your breath work or around your mindfulness can be super helpful as well. And it's another tool that can aid in your mindfulness and aid in that awareness through, noticing what it is that you're seeking, like we talked about. Noticing if you're feeling frustrated or, what are your triggers? Noticing when you're feeling like you're doing a million things but getting nothing accomplished. How can you set an intention around that? A focus is what an intention is. It's a focus or a purpose. And a lot of times we set those as kind of like affirmative statements of saying, like, I am calm in this situation. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, just creating that phrase to just continue to propel your mindful action and your breath work even further.
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome back to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm grateful to be with you today. You've probably heard the word mindfulness in the context of meditation, but did you know that it's a tool all its own that we've been talking about on the podcast for a while now? It relates to awareness and being present, which connects back to so many conversations on the show. So if you've been listening, you'll have a head start with today's topic. We'll be discussing mindfulness and how it creates space you need in your life. I talk about decluttering as making space for what matters. Mindfulness is a form of decluttering the mind, allowing you the time and calm you need to focus, be fully present and aware. The reality for many of us is that we have a life that leans toward hectic, which makes the idea of taking time, slowing down, and focusing sound challenging. But our guest today is going to show you how simple it can be. Today, I welcome Lindsay Coward to help us understand this kind of awareness and to show us how we can incorporate it into our lives quickly and easily. Lindsay's a worksite wellness provider and yoga instructor living in Asheville, North Carolina with her husband and 2 children. She's the founder of Yoga Nut, a wellness company dedicated to boosting mental clarity, building wellness culture at work, and providing tools for connection and work-life balance so that working adults, parents, and caregivers can live well at work and in life. Lindsay enjoys nature, eating local, and playing with her kids. In our conversation today, Lindsay helps us understand what mindfulness is, the benefits of it, and there are many, and small steps we can take today to begin practicing it. We talk about awareness, routines, and intention setting, which is like creating goals for your mindfulness practice. And she leads us through a very quick breathwork exercise you're going to love and laugh at. Be sure to listen to that point as Lindsay and I both try something called the horse breath. Hey, how perfect is that for all the naysayers? Oh, sorry, not sorry. Normally I'd say I'll let myself out, but I need to tell you a couple more things, so hang in there. Today we discuss humor, physical and mental stress, and breath work, so you'll want to catch episodes with Sarah Novak and Krista Bevan for sure. Also, what we discuss in terms of practicing mindfulness in small steps comes from the principles of habit development. So you can check out episode 15 on habits, and I encourage you to message me directly to chat about the best way for you to incorporate mindfulness as a habit. Now, let's go talk with Lindsay. and become mindful together. Welcome, Lindsay Coward, to the Positively Living Podcast. I'd love it if you would start by telling us a bit about yourself, who you are, who you help, and what makes you light up.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Lisa. It's great to be here today. So, I am a worksite wellness professional and corporate yoga instructor. And those titles I've kind of come into after teaching yoga for over 10 years, where I found my passion in helping working adults and caregivers and parents, people that have a busy lifestyle and don't necessarily have the time to make it to the gym or to go to the local yoga studio, in an effort to bring mindfulness, movement, and space into the body, just to help improve that work life balance that we're all striving to achieve and attain throughout different stages in life.
So, with a name like Yoga Nut,
Yes.
we're pretty much understanding what your passion is, but I'd love it if you'd back up a bit and give us a sense of what you were seeing that was, I think, the biggest challenges with people, whether it's in the corporate world or what you're seeing in the entrepreneurial world. And I know that the time crunch, the finding the time is part of that, but what are they seeking that they're also needing as well? What are you seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely time management is key. And for myself, I noticed that as soon as I went to college and all of a sudden had to make my own schedule and, be available at different times for work and for school and for sports and fun. And I think that that carries on into adulthood. Yeah, it's something that we aren't necessarily taught. So in the lifestyle of being a working adult, being a caregiver, being a parent, not only is it the time management, but the stress and anxiety that comes about around that time. They want to take care of themselves, or, you want to feel better, but you're just feeling overwhelmed about where to start. So I like to bring mindfulness tools and yoga and breath work to people in a convenient space, whether that be on demand, whether that be in the office, or for a freelance or entrepreneurial group. My passion is to make it available, to make it easy, and to make it accessible so that it's something that doesn't take up a lot of time, but that can build upon itself through daily practice, or as much, as someone wants to practice.
Exactly. And as you know, that's what connected me with you. It's so encouraging to think that we know we need this, right? We know we need this wellness and what we're seeking, the more calm, the stress reducers, that the things you're talking about, mindfulness, meditation, breath work, yoga, movement, all of these things can bring us. And most of the time we're like, but where am I going to find the time? And you're here to tell us, no worries. We have a simple way to approach this. So, before we get into the simple way to approach it, could you tell us a bit about what mindfulness is and why there is maybe a struggle to practice it or an uncertainty around it?
Yeah, so mindfulness is kind of a hot word, and a lot of people have heard of it. And going into workplaces recently, when I'm talking about mindfulness, I'll ask the question, "What do you think of when you hear the word mindful or mindfulness? What comes to mind?" And most people are pretty dead on. They know that it's about setting intentions or being purposeful, being present. And so we kind of know what it means, but we don't necessarily know how to achieve it or to utilize it in our lives. So I like to think of mindfulness as a practice. It's something that we come back to all the time. And it's a way to be more direct and be more present in what we're doing. So that could look like just finishing or working on one thing at a time. A lot of times throughout the day, we're doing multiple things. We're making our coffee, we're sending out emails, we're checking on a child, we're, returning a phone call to a friend or a colleague or family member without actually doing any of those things with purpose or mindfulness. I like to come at it of, being aware is huge. Knowing that, okay, now I'm doing all these things, but I'm not doing all of these things well. I'm just doing them. So I'm not ever enjoying them. And mindfulness brings us a joy and a purpose and creates more awareness and space around each thing that we're doing throughout the day.
And you've just answered my next question in a way, but we can still dig in more if you'd like. But this idea of, okay, so we're seeking to be more present and aware. And I know that I've seen it with my own clients. I've seen it with myself. I mean, this is life where not being so, trying to do the multitasking, which has been utterly debunked, okay, means
Mhm.
that we're not using a sufficient portion of our brain to do the thing. And what happens? Mistakes are made
Mhm.
and we struggle and we lose track of what we're doing. But on the opposite side, as we work to be more present and more aware, what are the benefits we're going to see?
Yeah, so definitely more clear of mind, more focus. Like you mentioned, when you're doing a million things at once, you're forgetting what you're actually working on. So if you are, for example, working on emails or doing something, and your phone rings and you answer it, and you start on taking a phone call, and then you're like, oh, I forgot to get the snack together for after school today, and so then you start doing that, and all of a sudden you've digressed so many levels away from what you were actually working on that it's going to take a while to spiral back to that task, that email that you were working on. It could have just been completed, in a couple of minutes. Then you could have made the phone call or returned the phone call, etc. So finding a way and like being okay with doing one thing at a time, understanding that not only does it create more awareness and space in your life because you're actually completing things. So it's almost like a little checkbox. I did my emails. Great. Now I can return these phone calls or, whatever it is that you have on your to dos for the day. And through that mindfulness, it breeds your mental clarity. It helps you to be more productive because you're actually focusing on one thing at a time versus having your brain thinking about that email, that phone call, those snacks all at once. You're going to be able to actually do those things and not be running around feeling crazy all day.
And what you said before about the idea of joy, I love that too. And it's not necessarily, I mean, we have tasks that we need to do.
Hmm.
Let's be honest, that we're like, okay, that might not bring us joy, but getting them done quickly and off our plates,
Hmm.
that can be joyful. And also, and this is the key point here, right? Less stressful.
Exactly. Yes. And if you allow 12 hours to do these things that you don't like doing, they're going to take 12 hours versus if you allow a shorter amount of time to actually complete tasks or things that are not as fun. You get them done and then you're happy about it because you can actually do something that you do enjoy and it gives more space. Mindfulness gives more space and time for our own hobbies, time for our families, time for whatever it is that brings you joy in life.
And that is what we want. I call it decluttering for the mind because I'm
Mm.
always talking about decluttering and it's a beautiful thing. So now we know what it is and why we want us. Would you please walk us through what it looks like and what we can do, really simple steps to start with and even an exercise if you want to walk us through it, it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. So, one thing that I like to start with when it comes to mindfulness is that awareness, noticing first off, how often am I doing things unmindfully? How often am I driving the car, talking on the phone, and doing multiple things at once where I might not be actually completing those things or doing them well? So, finding that area of questioning for yourself, where can I improve? That's the first step. Finding that time of day when you're always multitasking. And for a lot of us, it could be the morning, when we first get out of bed, we're getting things ready for the day. We remember our work. If you work from home or have more flexible hours, you might be throwing in some calls and emails and, just checking on things early in the morning without actually setting up your day. So a way to be mindful is to create a routine around, your morning process. Taking the time to move your body, perhaps, if that feels good for you in the morning, to stretch, to get up before the rest of your family, if you're, in a busy household, and to just take the time to make your coffee or tea or whatever beverage you like in the morning and be aware while you're doing it. So, feeling the mug in your hand, how does it feel? the sound of the water or the sound of the liquids that you're pouring. What does it sound like? What emotions are coming up as I'm doing this? Am I feeling excited, getting ready for the day? And just being mindful in small processes to begin with. Whereas over time, they'll compound on each other and you'll start noticing other areas in life where you're not as present, and it doesn't, we're not always present. That's impossible to be completely present all the time. Our minds are always wandering and always processing because that's what our minds do. But the goal is really to notice that when you're feeling flustered or when you're feeling overwhelmed, and to come to one specific thing when that happens and just really focus on that one specific thing. Yeah, that's really the first and key step.
I love that. And something that you said that really jumped out at me and is of particular interest, because when I'm working with clients, one of the things we talk about, one of the many things in terms of preferences is, their circadian rhythm and their times of energy in the day and things like that. So the idea that you're looking at the time of day when you might have this tendency to multitask or to be less present, and starting with that point. So it could be the morning, but it may not be, right? It's
Yes.
really looking
Yes.
for that spot. And I love that. That's a great first step, because then you're not trying to put this framework that is supposed to apply to everyone. Let's not do that, because that's not going
Right.
to work. It's being very specific to you. So it may be the morning, and it'd be wonderful if you could find this little mini routine in the morning. But if it's not, if it's at the end of the day when you're most flustered, or if it's at a lower point of energy, so it's finding that time and then creating like a little mini routine in there where you can practice, right? Being more aware.
Yes, and practice it in a normal daily task, such as making your dinner or, such as going for a walk. If you like to walk every day and that's a time of day that you take for a break, noticing the sounds, notice the birds, notice the feeling of the air, notice any smells, flowers are blooming, notice the feeling of the sun on your face, the feeling of your feet hitting the ground with each step. So there's ways to be very present and very mindful in our normal activities. And so I encourage you to try that, try to be a little more aware and a little more available in a normal activity that you're already doing.
I love that. And it's a very simple step. So it's a small amount of time and only has to be one thing that you're doing, maybe one task or a little bit of time, but it's leaning into that time, right?
Exactly. Yes. And leaning into the time and into your own awareness of yourself. So being aware of your energy, being aware of how you're feeling, how things are, going for your day. And with that mindfulness, I like to talk a lot about breath work because our breath is a tool that's with us all the time. So it's something that you can tap into at any time, day or night, standing in line, in the car, wherever you are. Your breath is always there. As long as you're alive, you have your breath. And a lot of us, we don't think of our breath because it is an automatic process. Our bodies are breathing and processing, etc. But it's one of the systems that we can also manipulate and manipulate in a positive way, in a self-serving way. So with that awareness that I was mentioning in the mindfulness, in that you can use your breath to help assist you through that mindfulness and through areas or times of the day when you're feeling low energy or where you're feeling frustrated and flustered, and there's times where you just need to release. Your breath is there for you for that as well. And one of my favorites I've been talking about recently with the breath is the horse breath, and it's super silly and fun, and it's not a pranayama that we normally hear about in like the yoga realm or really anywhere. I think people are kind of timid about being silly sometimes, which
You're in the right place.
another reason I like to share it because it helps you laugh. And I think that laughter is huge too when it comes to just being mindful and bringing that joy in your life. You don't need to be serious all the time. Like mindfulness might feel scary and serious, but it's actually beneficial and it's important. But the horse breath is super easy, and I can walk you guys through it right
Oh,
now.
yeah. Let's do it.
So you can do this anywhere. Obviously, some people might laugh if they see you doing this in public, but that's okay. But what you do is you take an inhale through your nose, and then as you exhale, you let your lips flutter and force the air out of your mouth. And just imagine a horse, how they flutter their lips, and it's super releasing. So we'll try it again. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth.
Oh, sorry. The whinnying is optional.
You can, and you can add a pitch to it, And I like to say with breath work, when you do practice it, they're usually, some people say, oh, practice it for 5 minutes or practice it for, however many rounds. So one thing I like to think about it is practice it until you feel different, until you notice that it's shifted. And then maybe try one more and see how you feel. But yeah, horse breath is super releasing. It's a good breath work for when you're feeling frustrated and flustered. And since it is silly, it also brings out that kind of feeling of, okay, I could kind of laugh at the situation to an extent, and I can let go of the situation as well.
I love that. It changes your state. So physically, we're changing things. We're releasing that frustration, that pent up stress, which is really important. And I mean, we've had some great conversations on the podcast about this, about breath work and about releasing physical stress. And this is
Mm.
all in one. And then bringing the joy and the laughter together. And it takes what? A minute, a couple minutes, depending upon how long you want to do it. Like that is super, super simple. Anytime. I bet your kids would love to do it. Well, not, I have a teen and a tween, so they'd be like, I do not know you, but, but I think maybe younger kids would be like, that's hysterical. And you're right. Just bringing that laughter and that joy and it not being so serious lets you reset.
It does, exactly. And my favorite part about the breath is that it is a quick tool. You don't need an hour of breath work to notice a difference. I was teaching earlier this week with a worksite group, and we did a calming breath work, a belly breathing, and they were so relaxed afterward. And we only practiced it for a couple of minutes. I walked them through it. And afterward, they're like, wow, we're so calm and relaxed. And the cool thing about it is that you can use those breath works depending on your situation. Like I said, it's self serving. When you're feeling low energy, you have something to tap into. When you're feeling like you need to decompress and you need that more centered, grounding, calming breath work, or maybe you're having trouble sleeping, belly breath or something like that is huge. And the breath compounds on itself. So if you're practicing these breathing practices for a minute a day, you're going to start noticing that awareness of how your body's feeling, how your mind's feeling, how your emotions are, and be able to tap into the feeling after the breath work without doing it as regularly, if that makes sense. It starts to compound upon itself. So you know that feeling. You're already aware of what it does in your body, and it's almost like you can embody that easier.
Oh, that's wonderfully efficient. We like that, where it's like you don't have to do it more. You can actually eventually do it less. But what you're talking about with this a minute a day, just little steps, this is habit development 101, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start
Mm-hmm.
super simple and super, super small, right? And the other thing I really like about this is it's sort of like coming at it from different directions. It works no matter what. If you are feeling super stressed and anxious and frustrated, which takes you out of being present, right? And you want to become present, you can use this technique. If you are also being present and having an awareness that you are feeling low energy or feeling frustrated, then you can also use the breath work to assist with that. So either way, it can bring you back to present, or it can be a tool you use because you were present in that moment and noticing what you needed.
Exactly. That's perfectly said.
I love it. It's like a multi-tool, right?
It is. Yes. That's why I love the breath.
That is fantastic. Okay. I think that is an excellent type of breath to try. I almost thought you were going to suggest the lion's breath because we had talked about that, and that's pretty funny too, but really, really good. But the horse breath, that was a wonderful surprise. It was definitely new to me. We have to try it today. And then, of course, just step one being the awareness first, small little mini routines where you're practicing being more aware and then using the breath to support that in whatever direction. Anything else you want to leave us with in terms of our first baby steps into bringing mindfulness to us and benefiting from all the wonderful aspects of it?
Yeah, one last thing I want to mention with that is having an intention around your breath work or around your mindfulness can be super helpful as well. And it's another tool that can aid in your mindfulness and aid in that awareness through, noticing what it is that you're seeking, like we talked about. Noticing if you're feeling frustrated or, what are your triggers? Noticing when you're feeling like you're doing a million things but getting nothing accomplished. How can you set an intention around that? A focus is what an intention is. It's a focus or a purpose. And a lot of times we set those as kind of like affirmative statements of saying, like, I am calm in this situation, or I have patience for my customers, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, just creating that phrase to just continue to propel your mindful action and your breath work even further.
It's like setting a goal for the work that you're doing.
Right. Yes. And it's simple. It's just a phrase, and it's something that you can breathe into your body. Like I like to do that when I'm teaching. If we set an intention at the beginning of a yoga practice, for example, ask them to just inhale and breathe that intention into the body. And then as you exhale, just let that intention flow throughout your whole body. So that your entire being is being mindful around that intention. Your breath, your energy, your muscles, your everything is just embodying that intention to create that reality of I am calm, or I am productive, or I am joyful, whatever it is that you're seeking right now.
And we could even set an intention at the very end of this conversation as we go forward, right? To embrace and to welcome mindfulness into our world.
Yes, exactly.
All right. I think that's a wonderful intention. Okay. And a wonderful place to wrap up, too. So, are you ready to have a little extra fun with me and a rapid wrap up?
Sounds great.
Okay. So, simply fill in the blanks for me. A song that lifts my spirits, makes me dance.
Yeah, so Rihanna comes to mind. She's one of my favorites when it comes to just dancing and being playful, and she's timeless in that way, for me at least.
Do you have a particular one, or you want me to just randomly pick one for the
Well,
playlist?
I like a lot, but from college, I always think of Umbrella because it's one that I love to dance to then. And it just reminds me of like being out with friends and having fun, and yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Okay, that will go on the Positively Living Podcast Spotify dance playlist. All
Awesome.
right, great. Now, how about a quote or a mantra that inspires me that I love to share?
Yeah, so one mantra that I use a lot and I like to share is super simple, and it's I am resilient. And it's very user friendly, and you can use it in all types of situations. Anytime that you need that feeling, you're feeling like you need some resilience, and you can be okay. Life is okay, and I am okay, and I am okay in this situation.
Love that. All right, how about a resource? It could be a book or an app. Anything that's made my life better is.
This is an app. It's actually a calendar that I share with my husband, and it's a free app. It's called the FamCal, and it's super easy because we can both put our information on the calendar, and it's like a shared calendar so I can see when he has things going on. I put all the kids' stuff on there. And it's really helped because we're not always like, oh, can you get the kid or can you do this? And we know when each other is available, and it's super beneficial in my life.
That's a great suggestion. Yes, anytime you can have a family calendar or you can have a command center of some kind where everybody can refer to it and know what the
Mhm.
others are doing. Such a big help. I will find the link for that. Okay. And now, last but certainly not least, what are you grateful for today, Lindsay?
I am grateful for the sun today, the sunshine and the flowers that are blooming in my yard. We just planted a little bit of vegetables in the garden. So just having that feeling of spring is here, things are blooming, life is good outside.
Yeah, I'm feeling that too. I'm in New York and we're finally getting hints of spring and
Hmm.
it's wonderful. Okay, well, I am most certainly grateful for you for having connected and that you were willing to come and share your wisdom with us today. So thank you, Lindsay, for shining your light in this world and for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Lisa. This has been great.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.